Welcome back to Amazing Earth Level 1. This will be the last vision of Level 1. It'll be on soil. But first, let's look at our big question for this entire quest. How do Earth's resources change? At this point, we should have a little bit of an answer to that question, knowing that our land changes slowly through some different processes, and those processes happen because of different reasons. So we'll be investigating that further as we move on, but by now we should have a general idea of how Earth's resources change. Let's look at our key point. Earth's surface is constantly changing. These changes occur either slowly through weathering, erosion, and deposition, or rapidly because of natural disasters like earthquakes and volcanoes. Humans can also change Earth's surface both positively or negatively. By studying Earth's changes in natural resources like minerals, rocks, and soil, humans can determine how to use natural resources to survive and where to build structures used for living. Mission 5 of Level 1 will be on soil. During this mission, you will learn about soil. We'll explore how soil is made up of living and non-living things such as bits of plants, rocks, and even dead animals and plants. You'll find out how these plants and animals can decompose or break down to become part of the soil. You'll learn about the different layers of soil, including topsoil, subsoil, and bedrock, and how we depend on soil to grow crops. We'll explore how rich, dark soil has a lot of humus and can hold water well, while sandy soil is loose, dry, and drains water. You'll also learn that clay soil is red and also can hold a lot of water. In this lesson, we will find out why soil is so important to humans. Our mission objective is to identify the ingredients, layers, properties, and types of soil. Our challenge questions: how do weathering, erosion, and deposition create soil? What are some ways that humans use soil? What types of things do we find in soil? Why is humus good for growing plants? And what are the 3 types of soil that we can find on Earth? We're going to begin by watching this video. Please pay very close attention to it, so when it's over, you will have a good idea about soil in general.
Soil is a mixture of both non-living pieces of rock, living and dead plant and animal material, and tiny organisms too small to see without a microscope. Soil is by far the most common surface feature of the planet and is sometimes called the skin of the earth. Here we can see the part of soil where plants grow, at the top. But we can also see that the plant roots extend downward, sometimes as much as 7 feet deep. Now let's look at how soil is formed. All soil comes from tiny pieces or particles of rock. Different types of rock create different types of soil. Rocks are broken down into these tiny pieces through a process known as weathering. While rock particles give soil many of its characteristics, it is the plant and animal material in soil that allows plants to grow. The plant and animal material in soil comes from many places. Plant roots and tunneling animals, such as worms and ants, push their way down into the soil. As these plants and animals die, their bodies turn into a material called humus. Humus is dark in color and provides nutrients for living plants. Air and water also help make soil. A large part of soil is the spaces between particles. The space is very important because it allows water to work its way through the soil. Water from rainfall and melting snow helps carry nutrients to the plant roots. Here we can see how soil works with water to help plants grow.
It's important to note that soil is nothing more than weathered rock. because it is made up of small pieces of rock, and we know that rock is broken down. So weathered rock, small pieces of rock, it makes sense. And we know that weathering, erosion, and deposition help move rocks from place to place, but they also work together to form soil. And that's because rock is broken down into smaller pieces through weathering, then they move from place to place through erosion, and finally they'll settle in a new location through deposition. This process of rock being broken down, then moving to a different place and settling in a new place allows us to always have new soil on Earth. Let's look what's in soil. There you'll see a chart of what's made up of soil. You see that mostly it's made up of minerals, so that's a non-living thing, but it's also made up of living things, which is organic matter. Air, water, and minerals are the non-living things that are found in soil, while bacteria, insects, worms, and fungi are the living things that are found in soil. And we know that if we've ever put a bunch of soil in our hand and looked at it, or looked at it under a magnifying glass to see what's actually in it. But I'm sure there might have been a time in your life where you picked up soil and you saw that there were insects in it, that there were worms in it, or other living things in it. Decaying plants and animals are also found in soil. So animals and plants that have died and now are decaying, they're breaking down, are also found in soil, either in large pieces, but most often in really, really small pieces that are hard for us to see. Humus is the material in soil that is made up of those decayed plants and animals. It has very important nutrients that plants need to grow. So in other words, it is very, very fertile. Humus is a rich, dark brown color, as you can see there from the picture. So when you see really dark soil, you can make the inference that it has a lot of humus, and it's probably going to be really fertile and good for growing crops and plants. There are 4 different layers or horizons of soil. Sometimes they're called horizons. Topsoil, which is the very top layer and contains a lot of humus, that's the layer that we're going to want to use for growing plants and crops. Subsoil, which is made up of soil and some small rocks. There you can see from the picture, it's not fully all soil. There are some tiny rocks in there. Then we have the parent material, which are the parents of topsoil and subsoil. These rocks are partially weathered. And then there's the bedrock, which contains large solid rock that hasn't been weathered yet. So the takeaway here is that knowing that over time the parent material and bedrock do become weathered, and eventually they would go up to be the subsoil and the topsoil, but that process doesn't happen overnight. It takes many, many years for that to occur. But that would allow soil to be constantly replaced, as we talked about earlier. Types of soil can be very different from one sample to the next, even when they are nearby each other. Meaning that if I look at one type of soil and another type of soil is right next to it, even in my yard, it might not be the exact same type of soil. So scientists, just like they did with minerals, they need to use properties or characteristics to tell the difference between these soil samples. And they look at 4 different things. They look at the amount of humus it has, they look at its color, they look at its texture, and they look at its ability to hold water. The video that we're about to watch will also do a really good job of explaining those things, as well as introduce you to the 3 types of soil that we will be studying in this mission.
One of the main ways to describe soil is by texture. Soil has a feel in your hand. What you're feeling is the size of the soil particles. Soils can have coarse particles, which are larger, or fine particles, which are very small. Here are different kinds of soil and the kind of texture they have. Gravels are very coarse. Sands are less coarse. Silts are fine. Clays have the finest particles. Most soils contain more than one kind of particle. Soils that have the same amount of each kind of particle are called loams. Loams are the best soils for helping plants grow. Another way to describe soils is by color. Black or dark soils contain a lot of humus. Red soils contain a lot of iron oxide or rust. Gray or white soils often have lost their nutrients.
So you'll see that the three types of soil are clay, silt, and sand. Let's look at them in chart form. And you have a chart in your notes that you need to make sure that you're filling this out. So if you need to, pause it and fill out this chart as you're working. We see that clay is red, gray, and blue. It can be smooth and silky when we touch it. And it has very small particles, which means it will absorb water. Then we have silt, which is different shades of brown. I apologize for that chart. For the silt, you can see that different isn't all on one line as it should be, and smooth isn't all on one line as it should be. I apologize for that. But silt is different shades of brown. It's very smooth as you touch it, and it holds water well. Sand has no humus at all, so that means it's probably not very good for growing plants. It can be tan, white, green, or black. It's very rough when you feel it, and it does not hold water well as water passes through the large particles. Fertile soil is a type of soil that plants grow best in because it has many, many nutrients. If soil is too sandy or has too much clay, it won't grow as well as it would if it didn't have those things. Really, a mixture of all three types of soil, or what we call loam, is best for plant growth. So you want a little bit of all three of those types of soil in order for plants to grow the best. Humans use soil in a lot of ways. They use soil to grow plants and crops, but that's not the only way that we use soil. We also use it to make tile, brick, paper, and pottery. Sand is also used to make concrete and glass. So you might have thought that we only use soil to grow plants and crops, but as you see, we actually use it in a couple different ways. Remember, that is one of your challenge questions. Make sure that you have that answer written down. How can we protect soil? Good farming practices can replace soil's nutrients naturally. Farmers can plant certain crops that put these nutrients back into the soil. Plowing their fields and rotating crops from year to year can help protect the nutrients that are needed in the soil. So if they plant some really good nutrients, some plants that have really good nutrients in them one year at on one part of their land, and then the next year they rotate it somewhere else, then the nutrients transfer from one place to the other, and so the next year they'll do the same thing, move it to a different place, and then move it to a different place. So that way they're always getting those nutrients spread out throughout their field. So in summary, soil is a very important natural resource that humans use to grow plants and make other materials like pottery and glass. Humus, which is found in soil, is a very dark material that is made up of decomposing material and includes a lot of good nutrients plants need to grow. Clay, silt, and sand are the three types of soil. Are you ready to take the checkpoint? Have you filled out all your notes? Do you have your challenge questions answered? If not, please take the time to do that. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, I will see you in the next video, which is going to be our review video for this entire level, in which I will help you with your essay questions. If you have any questions in the meantime, please let me know.